Are you coming? Judith! Judith! My bedroom is up here.
It's Jude. My name is Jude.
Well, everyone in school calls you Judith.
They're wrong.
Your grandparents call you Judith.
Yeah. And I never even met them until a month ago, so I think I know my own name better than they do. It's Jude.
Well, I don't care what your name is. It wasn't my idea for you to spend the night, so you're just going to have to entertain yourself.
If you didn't want me to stay over, then why did you invite me?
Because my father told me I had to.
Why is that any of his funeral?
Your grandparents go to our church, and they told him they had to go to Dover for the night. But they didn't want you staying by yourself while they were gone.
Yeah, well, I'm used to it.
They said you didn't have any friends.
I've got lots of friends back in Denver. I've only been in Portsmouth for a month. What about you?
I have friends.
No, you don't. I've seen you in school. Nobody ever talks to you.
Actually, I prefer my own company.
Big storm. A real gully washer.
It's called a nor'easter.
If this was my room, I'd haul that bed over here so I could stay up at night and watch the ocean.
I grew up on an island. I've seen the ocean.
In Denver, water's scarce as hen's teeth. Hardly even any lakes. Instead of ocean, we got 100 miles of prairie.
Denver sounds pretty dry and ugly.
Plenty of dry and ugly right here in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. You may have seen the ocean, but I bet you've never seen the elephant.
Yes, I have, at the circus.
You've seen an elephant, but you've never seen the elephant.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a saying we have. The territories.
There's no elephants in the West. What's that?
Old Orchard. Whiskey?
You can't drink that here.
I could drink whenever I wanted to in Denver. My daddy used to take me into saloons with him. He told everyone I was his son.
Well, my father's a minister, and he doesn't allow spirits in the house.
New Hampshire.
If you liked it so much in Denver, why didn't you just stay there?
Oh, believe me, I wanted to. If our house hadn't burned down, I'd still be there.
Your house burned down?
Isn't that what I just said? Prairie fire. That's how my mother died. My pa wanted me to stay in Denver with him, but her folks got all worked up about it. Made him put me on a train back east. He didn't want to. My pa's gonna send for me as soon as he gets settled.
I'm sorry about your mother. You still can't drink that here.
Folks can't do nothing in Portsmouth. A whole town so highfalutin, they got nothing better to do than tell other people how to live. Out in the territories, nobody's got time to worry about what anybody else is doing.
Nobody tells me what to do in Portsmouth.
That's because you're already doing everything like you're supposed to be.
What do you mean?
Clothes. Take clothes. Out there, it's the frontier. Everybody's doing everybody's work. People just wear what they feel like, and nobody cares. And Denver's full of saloons and brothels. And I've been to both.
I wouldn't brag about that.
Why? Nobody cares. Nobody goes to church in Denver.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, well, go see for yourself. After you've seen the elephant, not much point in praying.
What does that mean?
It's hard to explain to someone like you. From the East.
Well, try.
Folks go west to see something they've never seen before. Something they can't tame. Something wild, bigger than life, busting out with magnificence. So, they say they're going to see the elephant. And they pack up everything in a wagon and they head out. But then there are these storms on the plains. Hailstones as big as bricks. And there's prairie fires. And flooding. And fever. Bad roads and no grass. The wagon wheels bust. The cattle die. The babies die. Folks run out of food. And then they run out of water. And that's when they know they've seen the elephant. You can't ever forget it once you've seen it. And you can't describe it neither. Either you've seen it, or you haven't. You used to live out there? Can you see your island from here? I mean, in the daytime?
No. And it's a group of islands. The islands. The Isle of Shoals. They're 10 miles out.
I was 10 miles outside of Denver.
It was like another world. When someone had to come to Portsmouth for supplies, we would say they were going to the continent.
Going to the continent. I like that. You know what we'd say about traveling back east? We're going to the land of steady habits. Must have been something to be on an island during a storm like this.
I liked it.
You are scared?
No. I was scared when it was calm.
How come?
When the sea is calm, people can land on your island.
That tree is gonna blow down tonight.
No, it's not. It's 100 years old.
What was the name of your island?
Londoners. They're on the map. There were 9 of them. Londoners, Stars, Seavey, Appledore, White, Malaga, Cedar, and Duck Island.
And Smutty Nose. You forgot one. Is that a joke?
The fisherman named it because of how it looked with seaweed over one end of it.
Don't you think that's funny? A Snot Nose Island. What you reading?
8 Cousins by Louisa May Alcott.
What's it about?
It's about this orphan girl, Rose, who goes to live with her great aunts. They're all rich and they try to dress her up and teach her manners. But then her guardian uncle comes back and takes Rose to live with him and his 7 boys. You'd like the uncle. He tells Rose that girls shouldn't wear bustles and corsets.
Why would that matter to me? I don't care what girls wear.
Then how come you're wearing boys' clothes?
Ever hear of a hobdahoy? Yeah. Well, a hobdahoy is someone that everyone thinks is a girl, but when they grow up, they're men. I read a lot too. Ever hear of Ned Buntline?
No.
Everybody reads them out west. Old Ned is some pumpkins. One time, he got in this duel with a man who thought he was after his wife, which he wasn't, but it was a duel, so Ned had to kill him. Shot him! Right between the eyes. But then the man's brother was standing there, and he pulled out his gun and started shooting at Ned. So then Ned ran into this hotel and tried to hide. But there were so many people looking for him that he didn't stand a chance. So he had to jump off a balcony. But the balcony was dang near 50 feet high. So Ned got pretty busted up on the fall, and that's the only reason they caught him. So then they took him down to jail because it was still daylight. But as soon as the sun set, they came back. About 100 of them, and they broke into the jail and dragged him out of his call a necktie party. But Ned was trying to stall him. So first he asked if they would fetch him a minister. But they wouldn't do that. So then he asked if they would just shoot him. But they wouldn't do that either because they were all fired up for a hanging. So then they put the rope around his neck and they hauled him up onto the awning post, and he was sure enough starting to die. But just then, the rope broke, or maybe somebody cut it. But by then, they figured he was near enough gone, and so they thought they might as well just take him back to the jail. And so that's what they did. Only Ned didn't die. And they ended up letting him go because it was a duel, and he shot the man fair and square. And after that, he went and he got himself married 7 different times, and he was wrote hundreds of stories, and I've read them all.
That sounds like one of them.
In New Hampshire, maybe. But out in the territories, things like that happen all the time, which is why I'm going back there.
You know what I think? I think that everyone in Denver drinks too much and tells tall stories. There's no elephants in Colorado, and there is no such thing as a hobdahoy.
Yes, there is.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, there is.
Prove it. Take off your shirt.
Why would I do that?
Because I think you're a girl.
I don't care what you think.
I happen to know for a fact you're a liar. Your mother didn't die in a fire. Your grandparents came over here to talk to my father because he's their minister, and I heard them say your mother had gone crazy and that they had to go out to Denver to bring her to the asylum in Dover because your father had abandoned her. And they said you were in the Denver orphanage home. Where are you going? Wait, where are you going? Jude! Jude! There's a storm. Jude! 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 Ah!
Whoa, whoa, it's just me. Molly, stop! Molly, it was just a dang joke.
Not funny.
Hey, Molly, I forgot. I brought you something. See? Made it myself back in Denver. Yeah, well, it's called Planchette. It's a parlor game. It's got 2 little wheels and a pencil in the hole here. It goes like this. Now, I need a piece of paper. There.
How does it work?
Well, you put your hand here, like this, and then I have my hand here, and then one of us asks the question.
And then what?
Then Planchette will start to move, and the pencil will spell out the answer. What?
This is about communicating with spirit.
No, it's not. People just pretend it's ghosts, but really it's just themselves.
Then what's the point?
It's a game. Gets things going when people run out of things to say.
Well, ask a question.
What color are Molly's eyes?
You're pushing it.
No, I'm not.
You have to be.
I don't feel like I'm pushing.
You're lying.
No, I'm not. Look. B.
Brown, that's too easy.
Well, then you ask something.
Anything?
Yeah.
Does Jude have breasts? It's moving.
I know.
Don't you want to look?
Don't you? It's your question. My turn. What is Molly so afraid of? L-O-V.
It's not a V. It's a U.
L-O-U. I-S. L-O-U-I-S. Lewis. Who's Lewis?
If you lived here, you wouldn't have to ask.
Who is he?
Louis Wagner.
Are you gonna tell me who he is?
No.
You know, I could leave. I could get back to my grandparents' house through the coal chute. The only reason I came back is because I didn't want you to get in trouble. Okay.
Wait. This one is Londoners Island. We were the only family on the island. And there's Smutty Nose, the one you think is so funny.
I said I thought the name was funny.
There were 2 Norwegian women on Smutty Nose, Maren and Annette. My mother used to row me over there to visit, and sometimes, if she had to go to Portsmouth,
To the continent.
to the continent, she would leave me with Maren and Annette for the day. Their husbands were fishermen, so they were gone most of the time. Maren and Annette had the whole island to themselves.
What were they like?
Well, they spoke Norwegian a lot, and they were very proud of their little house. They had some china from Norway and plants in the house. They loved their dishes. They were so happy. That's what I remember. People on the islands complained a lot about the weather, about the fishing. It was not easy to live on the Isle of Shoals. But they were always so happy. I used to beg my mother to row me over to Smutty Nose. It was a fairy tale island to me. And because they didn't have any children, they would always make a big fuss over me, and I loved it. Annette had this long blonde hair, so long she could sit on it. She would hold me in her lap and sing me Norwegian songs. I remember one time I asked Maren if Annette was an angel. I had heard my father talking about them in his sermons, and I was curious. Annette started laughing at me, but Maren got very serious, and she said, "Yes, Molly, it is true. Annette is the angel that God has sent to me."
And Lewis?
Louis was a Prussian fisherman. He worked out on the boats with their husbands. He didn't have a wife or a home. He just boarded in Portsmouth when he wasn't working. But one spring he got sick, and because he didn't have any money or anyone to take care of him, Maren and Annette's husband said he could stay with them until he could work again. I remember he was there for a long time, the whole summer. We all thought he was faking, just so Maren and Annette would take care of him. Maren really hated him. She would always speak Norwegian in front of him, and he would get so mad. And he would try to get back to her by speaking to her in German, but she didn't care, because nobody wanted to hear what he had to say anyway. All he did was brag about his girlfriends. I remember one time Louis came out to Londoners and he started talking to my father about hell. He said he would rather be a devil than an angel, because angels have nothing but pretty hair and wings, but the devil has power. He said that word twice, power.
What did your father say?
He was too shocked to say anything. He told me later he thought Louis had a past that would not bear inspection. What are you doing?
I brought us some doings. Soda biscuits and marmalade, in case we got hungry. Made them myself.
You cook?
Somebody had to. I could hire on as a cook in a hotel if I wanted to, but I've got a better plan. Want to hear it? When I get back to Denver, I'm going to save up my money and buy me a field camera. And then I'm going to set up a studio and take portraits of people. Because people are always wanting to send pictures back east. You know, when they get married or have babies. But that way, they'll be the ones fussing about what to wear, and I'll be the one doing all the staring. And I figure I can take pictures of the mountains and make them into postcards and sell them. Denver's on the plain, but you can still see the Rockies with the snow and the sunsets. A lot bigger than the hills you got here. You ought to come out and see them. Or maybe I can just send you one of my postcards.
You want me to finish the story?
Do you want to finish it?
One night in March, Lewis was out on the docks in Portsmouth, and he saw Marion and Annette's husbands were waiting for a trainload of bait from Boston. The train was running late, so they told him they were going to be there all night. And that's when Lewis knew that the women would be alone on the island. So he stole a dory and rowed out to Smutty Nose.
He rode 10 miles at night?
It was a clear night, and the tide was with him, and he could see the lighthouse on White Island.
How long ago was this?
6 years.
So you were 7.
8.
So he rode out?
He rowed out, and he went to the house. And Marin's sister was staying with them, but he didn't know that. She was sleeping in the kitchen when she heard him come in and started screaming and woke up Annette and Marin. And then Lewis started beating her over the head with the chair. And Marin was able to open the bedroom door and drag her sister in, but while she was doing that, Lewis started smashing her over the head. But she still managed to get her sister inside the bedroom and hold the door closed against Lewis. She was really strong. And so while she's holding the door closed, she turns to tell Annette to climb out the window.
Wait! They were in the same room.
They always slept together when the men were away. So Annette climbs out the window, and Marin told her to yell over to Star Island for help, but Annette was too scared. So then Marin told her to run, but Annette said she couldn't. And Lewis must have figured out what was going on, because he ran around the side of the house to where Annette was standing in the snow. And when she saw him, all she could do was keep saying his name over and over. Lewis! 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 And then he killed her with an axe from the woodpile. And Marin saw the whole thing from her window.
That must have been terrible.
And then Lewis saw Marin in the window and turned to run back into the house to kill her, but Marin climbed out the window.
What about her sister?
It was too late to save her. And the whole time, Marin's little dog, Ringa, kept barking and barking. Marin said that it was Ringa's barking that saved her life, because at first she was going to run down to one of the fish shacks and hide, but Ringa was making so much noise she knew Lewis would find her. So instead she picked up Ringa and ran across the island to the shore, where they hid under a big rock so that the waves would drown out the barking. But Marin told me that she held his mouth closed all night anyway. And Lewis would have found them if they had gone to the fish shacks, because in the morning they saw his footprints going around and around the outside of them.
So he left?
He rode back to Portsmouth. And in the morning, Marin was able to yell over to Appledore for help. Someone came and got her. And Celia Thaxter, who owned the inn on Appledore, she took care of her.
What about Lewis?
They arrested him in Boston, and 3 years ago they finally hanged him. But he told everyone he was innocent. He said that Marin did it, and there were people who believed him.
And you were only 8? Were you scared?
Everyone was scared. But the worst was when my mother took me over to Appledore to visit Marin. She was completely different. She didn't even look the same. It was like she was dead while she was still alive. That scared me more than anything.
Yeah. I've seen that. Out west.
Marin went back to Norway, but her husband stayed in Portsmouth. Jude, there's something else I didn't tell you.
Molly?
It's my father.
Molly?
Father?
Sorry to interrupt you, ladies. Hello, Judith. heard that tree out front blow down. I just wanted to survey the damage. Well, it looks like it missed the house, but it's blocking the street.
I can help you buck that tree, sir. I used to cut our firewood back in Denver.
I think that's going to be a job for the men folk. I'll ask your grandfather to give me a hand. Bucking and hauling wood is dangerous work. I'm surprised that Judith's parents let her do it.
My pa taught me to build, too, so I could take care of my mother.
That's the husband's job, taking care of the women.
What if a woman doesn't have a husband?
And the men of the family will care for her.
What if they die?
Then the men of the church will step in. Judith, I understand from your grandfather that you weren't raised in the church. I was sorry to hear that.
I don't mind.
Life can be pretty tough without the Lord to guide us. Isn't that right? God knows a lot more than we do. He sees the road ahead as well as the road behind. That's why he's given us the rules, so we don't get lost or make any wrong turns. But we have to follow his rules. Molly, I want you to pick out a couple of your dresses to give to Judith.
Oh, that's all right, Reverend Leahy. I don't need them.
It looks to me like you do.
But my grandparents said I could wear what I wanted.
They told me that they really want you to start wearing dresses.
But they said that
I know what they said. But Judith, put yourself in their shoes. They feel as if their only daughter has been taken away from them. And now they're terrified of losing their only granddaughter. Surprised that a girl as sensitive as yourself would want to keep doing something that's causing them so much pain after all that they've been through.
But what I wear doesn't have anything to do with them.
Judith, do you know what Deuteronomy is? It's the 5th book of the Holy Bible. It contains the word of God that he gave to Moses to lead his people out of the wilderness. It's the rules, Judith. The rules that we were talking about. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto the man. Neither shall the man put on the woman's garment, for all that do are an abomination unto the Lord thy God. Now, I want you to promise me that you'll wear those dresses that Molly gives you. All right. Molly, don't let her leave without them.
I'm sorry, Jude.
It's an abomination to wear a dress. How would he like it if someone told him he had to wear one? Men, taking care of women. My pa went off to Denver and left us alone in that shack for weeks. Sometimes a whole month, just me and her. And if it hadn't been for me bucking wood and doing all the cooking, we would have frozen and starved to death. She couldn't do nothing, just sit there and talk to herself and cry all day. And then she tried to burn the house down. She tried to burn it down 9 times with us in it. I couldn't let her alone for a minute. I had to stay up at night watching her. What was I supposed to do? Tie my mother up like an animal? What was I supposed to do? But sometimes I just couldn't keep awake, no matter how much coffee I drank. So one night last summer I fell asleep, and she did it. She lit a fire in every room. When I woke up, the whole house was on fire, and there she was, standing there in her nightgown, laughing. If it hadn't been for me, she would have burned up. She didn't care. She didn't care if I died either. She was just standing there, laughing. She wouldn't even help me put water when I was running back and forth. I was working my legs up, trying to put it out. By morning, it was all burned up. Everything we owned was burned to cinders. And then folks said it was my fault. They said I should have done something. What was I supposed to do? What the hell was I supposed to do? What?
It's your turn.
I can't think of anything.
Nothing? Jude, I didn't finish the story. Those two women, Marin and Annette, they were sweethearts.
I figured they were.
That's why Lewis came back to kill them.
Yeah. I figured that too.
And after he killed Annette, he dragged her body back into the house. And they found her body with the nightgown pushed up. He couldn't stand how happy they were. Without the men, I think he and I were the only two people who knew they were sweethearts because we were the only two who ever saw them on their island together like that.
That's a pretty big secret for an 8-year-old.
You knew that women could be like that?
I've seen them back in Denver. And sometimes people just think it's two women. But one of them's really a man. I want to ask a question.
Well,
What is Molly so afraid of?
you already asked.
I know, but Lewis is dead. What is Molly so afraid of?
This is stupid.
Wait. It's not moving.
I know.
You're holding it down. That's not fair.
I'm like Marin and Annette.
Storm's starting to pass. I take it back.
What?
What I said about you not seeing the elephant.
Where in Denver do you think you're going to build your photography studio?
I'm not going to build
But
it.
you said-
I'm going to lease me a room. Over a dry goods store on Larimer Street. Larimer Street's in the middle of Denver. Right next to this creek, Cherry Creek. I'll show you. The creek cuts clear through the city, like this. Here's 14th Street, and Larimer crosses it like this, and here's Cherry Creek. And my studio's gonna be right up here. I'll be able to see Cherry Creek from the window. I figure I'll sleep in the studio first few years. Easier just to have the whole thing on one stick. There actually ain't no cherries in Cherry Creek. They call it that on account of the choke cherries, and you can't eat them. They're so sour they make your mouth all puckered. And there's beavers in the creek. They build their dams outside of Denver, but they come downstream to eat. You can see them swimming. And there's trout and perch. I can just step outside my studio and go fishing for my dinner. Got crayfish there, too. And here's the Rockies to the west. You look right across Cherry Creek, and you can see them. Molly, you gotta see the Rockies.
I'd like to.
And at night, the moon comes right up over them, like it was a lantern. Sometimes so bright, you could read your book by them. And that's the truth.